Oh my god, the first time I saw it, I just threw up my hands. I was like, cinema. This thing is the best. Say I love you. And there was a flying car on Broadway. Did you know there was a flying car on Broadway? Is this thing on? What's going on? It's your boy. Oh hey, didn't see that. Today we'll figure out that intro. Not today. What's going on, everyone? My name's Jimmy. We'll figure out that intro later, but this is the very first episode of a random walk down Broadway. I'm brand new to musical theater, just really started watching about a year ago, absolutely fell in love, got bit by the theater bug. My friends, co-workers, family, grandmother, especially grandmother, are very sick of me talking about Broadway nonstop, so I needed somewhere else to talk about it. I'm putting it out there. Maybe people will listen, maybe they won't. But today my game plan is to kind of just review all the shows that I watched in 2024, tear them out a little bit. I try to get this video out like the first week of January, so send all the thank yous to your favorite YouTuber, because this stuff takes way more time than you think it does to put together. And without further ado, let's get started. So the game plan today is I'm going to be tiering all the shows I saw in 2024, S-tiered all the way down to D-tier. I don't believe that I've seen an F-tier Broadway show. That would just be like, there's absolutely no talent, no story, nothing. I don't think that's existed yet on Broadway for me, so I'm eliminating the F-tier. Again, all these are subjective, so what's in my D-tier might be your favorite show, what's in my S-tier might be your least favorite show, and I think that's the beauty of this art, and so I'm going to kick it off with my opinions. So I think we'll kick things off with a D tier, and I don't want to spend too long in there just, disparaging a show or anything like that. But the D tier for me was shows that was kind of boring to me, didn't really connect in a meaningful way, didn't really, go listen to the songs after. That's kind of where my D tier rests. And so without further ado, let's kick it off. We had musicals about cats. We had musicals about phantoms doing the opera. And we had musicals about cannibalism underneath a London bakery. But what we didn't have was Cannibalism on Water, the musical, and the Avett Brothers answered this with Swept Away. All jokes aside, there's some highlights in Swept Away. John Gallagher Jr. delivers a great performance in both acting and singing, and I'm a little bit biased because he's from Wilmington, Delaware. Wilmington, Delaware is my hometown, but I truly believe he gives a Frank Gallagher-esque performance if you've ever seen the show Shameless. And then Adrian Blake Ensko and Stark Sands deliver the best song in the show, in my opinion, which was Murder in the City, where two brothers just finish each other's sentences, and it's very touching. And then shout out to Hellskitchen. They put me in the front row at the lottery. Unfortunately, The Impressive Shipwreck goes 50 feet in the air, and I had to book a chiropractor appointment the next day just to see it. But with that being said, it was an impressive shipwreck nonetheless. Now, the problems with the show is the songs were clearly made first, and then you try to put a story around it, and that doesn't quite work. And then, obviously it's about cannibalism, people die. The problem is we don't know anything about the characters before they're on the ship, really. And the problem in that is that we don't really have any reason to care about them, when tragedy hits. And unfortunately, that sort of lack of story, lack of being able to cash in on the tragedy, and then the song's just not really fitting the story. That's why it has to sit in the D tier. I have a feeling the next show in my D tier is going to be a lot of people's favorite show, but Suffs is the next show in my D tier, and I want to start off with some of the highlights, because there are some really strong highlights. Ali Bonino and Hannah Cruz just deliver some amazing vocals. Kim Blank is the perfect comedic relief to just cut through this, really heart-wrenching topic. And then you'd be remiss not to mention Nikki M. James, who sings Wait My Turn, and just delivers such amazing strength in that performance. But now let me turn to why this is in my D tier. Primarily, it's sort of the fact that sweeneytodd casted herself as Alice Paul. To me, she delivered an almost cartoonish performance in both singing and acting, and that frequently took me out of the show and left me, feeling weird and bored, and it's such an important topic, so I'm disappointed that happened. And then outside of, the song The March, there wasn't really a song I wanted to listen to after the show, despite the show winning Best Score. And so for me, the boredom, the cartoonishness, and then the lack of wanting to listen to this music afterwards is really why this sits in my D tier. And I find it unfortunate because as a history nerd, I really wanted to connect with this story, and I just couldn't. I couldn't get there. How do I feel about the C tier? C tier is where we're going next. The C tier for me is, maybe there's a couple songs in it that you like. You're not going to be upset that you spent money going to the show, but you're probably also not going to recommend it to someone else. So I kind of have it as like that neutral kind of tier. And for me, the first show that I want to bring up in the C tier is Sweeney Todd. Now, I didn't get to see the Josh Groban run. When I got my ticket, I had noticed that it was for Aaron Tveit and Sutton Foster. And again, I'm brand new to theater. And so I was like, Aaron Tveit, I know that name. How do I know that name? Well, when you start going to musicals, Google knows your algorithm, because I started getting all of these theater reels in my Instagram feed, and I realized, oh, this is that guy, the "Why Does My Heart Cry? Say I Love Ya." That guy, and he was incredible. But the problem is, it's sort of not believable to have like a very like high pitched tenor be this like really intimidating serial killer. So that kind of takes you out of it a little bit, but he's still great nonetheless. Sutton Foster, comedic genius. Joe Locke, shout out to Joe Locke, Broadway debut. He sang phenomenally. Now, my problems with theater, again, brand newbie. I do appreciate Stephen Sondheim. I totally get he's the godfather here. There weren't many songs that I left wanting to sing. I didn't really want to go back and listen to the track. I was still blown away by that intro number. I mean, the harmonies in it are just chaotic. It's great. But the songs have quite a bit of lulls in them. No Place Like London. I could have fallen asleep during it, unfortunately. And then, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but the big reveal, for those that know, I feel like it at the very beginning. Like, it feels very clear that that's where it's going. And so for that reason, the predictability of it, the characters not quite fitting the actors, the songs not feeling very singable, or wanting to replay later, it's in the C tier. It was good. It's just not great for me. All right, we're moving on to the next show, and this one kills me to put in the C tier because it is The Notebook, and The Notebook was one of my most played albums of 2024, no doubt. I mean, when I listened to the score, I was sold. And, I will say, I didn't get to see Joy Woods, I didn't get to see Jonathan Cardoza, I didn't get to see Jordan Tyson, but I did get to see Marianne Plunkett, I did get to see Dorian Harewood, and Ryan Vasquez. Look, this show has so many flaws despite its impeccable score by Ingrid Michaelson. And let me just give her flowers real quick. That opening number, I mean, it layers not just different harmonies, but it's actually putting different melodies on top of each other. And, there's a clear theme throughout the whole soundtrack that you pick any one song and you're listening to The Notebook. You have all the time, all the people singing Time throughout the show, all the I Love You throughout the background in the show. And then they just rip your heart out with the numbers of I Want to Go Home, I Want to Go Back, Iron in the Fridge. I mean, these songs are just heart-wrenching. Marianne Plunkett and Dorian Harewood absolutely know how to tear your heart out. Now, I have to go into why this doesn't quite work on the stage. And the one big problem is, if you think back to the movie, right, you start with the older Allie and Noah, and you look back to the younger, and then eventually you go to the middle, and then you're back to the old. And they do flip back and forth between the young and old, and then the middle and old, but they don't flip back and forth between the young and middle. And that's a key problem in this musical. Flipping back between the young Allie and Noah and the middle Allie and Noah, well, the whole problem there is that we don't really care about middle Allie and Noah yet because we don't know what happens with young Allie and Noah enough to care about them. And then on top of that, they fall in love in the matter of one song, and we don't really know why. They're just like, I want to dance with you, and then they're in love. That's the whole love story, and that's not enough to sell you on it. And then I really hate to be critical of a single cast member, but Ryan Vasquez as Middle Noah was quite awful on the night I went. He was very pitchy, very flat. Audience didn't know whether to clap at the end of his songs, which I've never seen before. And then his interpretation of the character was, let's think about Middle Noah. Middle Noah's dad died. His best friend died. The love of his life left him and never wrote him back. He should be a shell of his former self. And instead, this guy's goofy. He's like, Allie, what are you doing here? It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And I'm so sad that this score didn't get the love it deserved. I hope it wins a Grammy. We'll see. But it was a great soundtrack. I wish the musical could do more. I hope this comes back one day. All right, now we're moving to the B tier. And the way I like to think about the B tier is like, they're all good shows, right? They're all good, but they may have more of like a niche audience, or they may have an audience that appreciates it more than some others. And so the first one that I'm going to put in the B tier is Hell's Kitchen. This is a good time. And despite when I went that it was pretty much all understudies or outright replacements, I saw zero of the original cast in this performance, and it was a great time. First of all, huge shout out to Donna Bavino, who played Alicia Keys' mother. She got darn near a standing ovation mid-performance at this show with her vocals. You get the hits. You get This Girl Is on Fire, Empire State of Mind. It's a great time. My problem that'll stop this from ever being an A tier or an S tier show is, it's very jukeboxy. And this is, a lot of people have different opinions on this. I don't find jukeboxy musicals to be very enthralling or engaging, because for me, I need a story, and I don't think the story particularly is woven well into these songs. And also the sort of love interest aspect of this is very weird, because they establish that the male lead is an adult while Alicia Keys is still a teenager, and we're somehow supposed to root for that relationship, which is kind of conflicting. But this is the musical for your friend who doesn't like musicals. They'll have a good time at this. It's all the hits. It's great singing, bright lights, have fun. This is just not gonna blow you away from a story perspective. And for me, that's something I value deeply. All right, next up in the B tier, 13 Tony nominations. Most Tony nominated play of all time. Stereophonic. Did it live up to the hype? I think it did. Now, why is it in the B tier if it lived up to my hype? I think it's a couple niche things about me. I'll go into it, but let me start off about the great stuff. All right, the great stuff, when they were singing and doing music, great time. Stage design, A+. It's like you're a fly on the wall in a 1970s music studio, and that's just a blast. And then the acting was just A++. Everybody was killing it. I want to give a specific shout out to Eli Gelb, who played Grover. This guy put on the comedic performance of the year. I think he gave a very Jonah Hill-esque type performance. He was absolutely money as Grover. I think if you see him in anything else, you got to go see it. Now, let me kind of move into why it's in my B tier. I have ADD, and quite frankly, this show is long. This thing is 3 hours, and there's a lot of dramatic pauses. I think it's a half hour's worth of just, and that just loses my attention. I just can't do it. And so for me, that's why it's in my B tier. I could acknowledge its greatness, but there were quite a few moments where I'm just looking around the room. What's going on? Can someone say words? But when you're not having those moments, great show. I do think it's really good. And if you do have someone who is a Fleetwood Mac fan, this is perfect for them. Unfortunately, it did close, but maybe it will come back at some point down the road. I'm fully prepared for the backlash that this review will give me on this one, because I'm covering The Outsiders. Now, The Outsiders is going to be a lot of people's favorite musical of 2024. It won Best New Musical. And, it's a good show. But there is no show that mismatched my expectations more than this one. Some might say I had great expectations. Haha. But this one kind of missed it for me. Now, let me start off with the good stuff, right? Because it's in the B tier. It's not bad, so I'm going to start there with the good. Joshua Boone as Dally delivers the performance of the year, maybe, especially in that song Little Brother. He just rips your heart out. He's crying on stage while singing. He nails this character. And then you have, Amazing Numbers and Great Expectations and Stay Gold. These were the songs that, when they got released, really made me want to go see this show. I was also a fan of the movie, the book. And then, the Rumble is one of the best choreographed moments of all of 2024. And so there's good things to like about this show. I'm not saying it's a bad show. I will say, though, that no show missed my expectations, fair or not, probably not fair, but no show missed my expectations more than this one. And let me go into why. All right, so one of my biggest problems with this show is they butcher so many characters. We'll start with the easy one. The layup is Cherry. Cherry doesn't really exist. We don't really know much, if all, about anything about Cherry, because during the one moment she supposedly opens up, it's just Ponyboy turning to us and telling us, and that's when she told us about her parents. Whew, done. Close it. She's not really a relevant character again until she's singing to us about Bob later, which I'm going to go into now. All right, so later in the show, we have to be upset about Bob. We have to sort of empathize with the Socias. They lost somebody. He was good. We don't know their side like we know our side, the Greasers, right? Well, she's like, Bob was good when he was alone. Bob was good when it was just us. He had a kind heart. I never saw Bob be good. In fact, I think Bob was the least good. He was not good at all. All he did was, try to murder somebody. That's all I saw. And for me, that's sort of just like, if you're gonna try and sell us on this sort of like parallelism, the Socias and Greasers, we have more in common than we could possibly know, despite growing up on different sides of the tracks. Show us the Socias, show us Bob being good, let us empathize with both sides, let us be heartbroken over that. Next up, I'm going to say, some of these songs are outright goofy for the characters. I mean, you have Daryl, who's supposed to be this masculine character, and Brent Comer was a great singer in this, and a great actor even, but he's given some outright silly songs to sing. They're almost these bluesy, whimsical songs where he has to, sing about how upset he is and how his feelings are. It doesn't work. It's like this hyper masculine character, and bluesy numbers about his feelings don't work. And then there's just like outright silly things that happen too throughout the show. Like Johnny's like, I have all these burns on my back. It hurts. They lay him on his back. You have moments where they're like, and then Dallas set his shirt besides the track, and we're looking at Dallas. He doesn't do that at all. And it's just like, why say it if that's not even what we're happening? He's trying to act out. There's so many flaws with this show. I really wish that it had been more fleshed out. I think quite a few of these characters are misses. It was disappointing to me relative to my expectations. And maybe it's better than a B tier, but fair or not, my expectations were very high and it didn't hit them. You know what? I'm actually not done with The Outsiders yet. I got one more. And this is going to be a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, just, skip like a minute ahead and you'll be fine. The way that they end the Dally character, to put it nicely, just doesn't work in this. If you've ever seen like the movie, he finds out Johnny dies. He's, this feeling that society is unjust just boils over inside of him, and he takes it out. He goes and tries to rob a store, and he dies by cop. And this rage against society is what fueled his death, and trying to take it down with him. And you don't get that in this musical. What you get is this more route of sorrow and pity and helplessness. And it doesn't work, and it's not who the character is. He's an angry character. And I feel like that butchering just really, really upset me when I saw this show. And now I'll stop with The Outsiders. All right, we're kicking it up another notch. We're going to the A tier. Now, what is the A tier for me? The A tier is a great show. The A tier is a show that I will see again and again and recommend to others. But for me, the A tier will not be something that moved me. I don't have an emotional connection to it other than it being just a flat out great time. And so without further ado, let's kick it off with this A tier. Kicking off the A tier is the show you absolutely cannot bring your mother to, and that is the Book of Mormon. This show is outright hilarious. If you like dark comedy, this one is for you. It is the raunchiest thing on Broadway. It doesn't have the best songs, but it has the funniest songs. It doesn't have the best choreography, but it has the funniest choreography. It doesn't have the best effects, but it has the funniest effects. If you're into comedy, if you have a dark sense of humor, this is the show for you. You will not be disappointed. On to the next show. Are you a Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, or Ravenclaw? Shout out to all my Ravenclaws out there. You know what? It doesn't matter which one you are. This show is fantastic. You don't even have to like Harry Potter to like this show. This show is just a magical spectacle. I mean, there is no better special effects on Broadway. This thing is absolutely nailing illusion. As a Harry Potter fan, you know, some of the material is a bit of a miss for those that follow the show. What the heck's going on with these time turners? They were gone, you know. Now they're back. And with no real good explanation. So the story falls a little flat in that sense. Also, where is the orchestra? Dun, 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 dun. I mean, it's such a layup. Give us the IP. Yo, I mean, they're just hitting play on an iPod. Doop, 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 doop. That's the biggest miss in this, but you absolutely have to go check this out. It's great for the family. It's a good time, and there are special effects that outright will blow your mind. All right, the situation is heavy with the next one. That is Back to the Future. There was a flying car on Broadway. There was a flying car on Broadway. You were in your seat. There was a stage. The stage was on Broadway, and there was a flying car on Broadway. Did you know there was a flying car on Broadway? I mean, it was a car that flew, and it was on Broadway, and that happened. And this show, Casey Likes, Roger Bart, absolutely killed it. The stage design, the orchestra, everything, total spectacle. Maybe I'm a caveman, but I like time-traveling space cars that fly. This was a good time. I mean, there was a flying car on Broadway. Nobody's talking about it. This thing was epic. It was a good time. The music was fun. Blah, blah, the story, the music didn't move. It was a good time. Don't overthink it. This was fun. Back to the Future, the musical. It's still touring the country. It's in California right now. This thing is dynamite. The next show on the list is going to be a bit of a 50-50 split, I'm guessing, because I had friends that went to go see it and they didn't love it, and others that absolutely did love it. For me, I loved it. This show is Sunset Boulevard. First and foremost, let's get it out of the gates. Nicole Scherzinger is giving the performance of a lifetime, and she should absolutely be the frontrunner for Best Leading Actress in a Musical right now. And so let's move on to more of the show aspects that I just find so fascinating. Again, let me say it, the A tier, not something I emotionally connect to. This story is meh, but the directing choices, phenomenal. First of all, we've got this empty stage. It's just being flooded with like gray light and fog, and it's creating this like LA noir effect, this LA noir black and white film effect that I haven't really quite seen on Broadway. And let's talk about the acting choices. Everyone except for Norma Desmond is giving a monotone performance. And why? Why do that? Well, it's all in service of who's the main character. It's Norma Desmond. This is all almost in her head, right? She is the star. No one else is, as an energetic or passionate or entertaining as her. And you get that same effect watching this performance. Come on. They're filming. They're going outside. We've got someone in a monkey suit outside paying homage to the monkey funeral. This is a good time. Oh my God! With the big reveal of Norma, I mean, we've got Joe driving the car, looking in the rearview mirror. She's kind of there. She's there. Nicole gets a standing ovation just for appearing. She got no less than 3 standing ovations mid-performance when I went. This is a great, great show. I really hope people come to appreciate it because I think it's fantastic. All right, we are in the S tier now. This is a show that it checks all the boxes. It has the music. It has the story. It connects with me emotionally. There's only 3 shows in it right now, so let's get started with the S tier. The first show in the S tier, come on, it was popular for a reason. You couldn't buy a ticket for a reason, and it is on Disney Plus for a reason. Hamilton is that show. I mean, we all can talk about Lin-Manuel Miranda's masterful score here. I mean, it was revolutionary for the Broadway stage. But what I'm really obsessed with in this is the ability to take this historical story and then really bring modern truths about humanity to the forefront. And what do I mean by this? I'm saying, Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, the story really highlights their parallelism. They're both going after the same thing, but taking two entirely different approaches on it. And we sort of have to say, okay, well, is it better to, take a back seat and be patient and wait for what you want? Or is it better to, run over everything that you love and care about to get what you want? And this show delivers that at such a high level, that story, that concept. And then, I wasn't sure whether to talk more about the original Broadway cast or the cast that I saw live. Both did a great job. The choreography and singing in person were amazing. But what I was really most blown away with in the original Broadway cast is Leslie Odom Jr. I mean, this guy starts behind the 8 ball as Aaron Burr. In the opening song, I'm the damn fool who shot him, right? We get that right off the bat. He's behind the 8 ball. We think he's the villain. By the end of it, he's making you feel sympathetic. He's coming to this realization that, the world was wide enough for these two guys, and all this animosity he was feeling was so worthless and futile. And, oh my God, the way he delivers this was just so heart-wrenching. I love the songs in this. I love the story. I could listen to this soundtrack again and again and again and again. This is really Broadway at its best. All right, only 2 shows left on the list, and these are 2 shows that I went back to way more times than I care to admit, and that is Maybe Happy Ending. This is the best new musical of the cycle. It will win Best New Musical at the Tonys. It will win Best Stage Design. This thing is like watching a Pixar movie in front of your very eyes. You have Helen J. Shen in her Broadway debut, voice of an angel, A++ comedic timing. You have Darren Criss, you know him from Glee. He is delivering this performance to a T as a Helperbot 3, which is more durable than the rest of the Helperbot series. And you have Hua Boon, an absolute diva. I mean, this guy is playing himself. Maybe he wins Best Featured Actor in a Musical. We will see. The score is one of my favorite scores right now, despite it being one of the more reserved scores on Broadway. But it just fits the show to a T. It's enchanting. It's charming. I just want to listen to it again and again and again. And I really just love the theme of this show. The theme of the show at the outset is singing to you, "Why Love?" That's the opening song, "Why Love?" Now, is it why comma love? Is it why no comma love? Commas do save lives. I think it's no comma. I think they're asking you why love at all. That's really the theme of this story. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go into spoilers from here, so skip about a minute ahead if you don't want to hear them. But I got to get this out. All right, so why love? That's the purpose of the show, right? They're saying, if you fall in love, you're very likely to fall out of love and break up heartbroken. If you get past that and you get to marriage, there's a decent chance you get divorced, heartbroken. And if you make it through all that and you're still in love, you're going to die anyway. And that's a really hard thing to wrap your head around, but it's like, why go through all of this if you know that it's doomed, if you know the tragedy's ahead? And the show really delivers that. It's like, the person, the time you get to spend with them makes that all worth it. And there isn't a show delivering that theme on Broadway any better than this. It's so heartbreaking. It's so funny. The scene with the conductor, oh my God, the first time I saw it, I just threw up my hands. I was like, cinema. This thing is the best thing I've seen on Broadway. Something about it's just so moving. The audience goes nuts for it. The memory sequence, you get the string quartet version of Goodbye My Room. It's just so beautiful. You get the Inception ending. Did Claire also delete her memory? Did she not? And then I just can't say enough, just from like a technical standpoint, the timing that all these actors require. I mean, the changing in the sets, the off-camera or like the visual performances by the actors, the timing that the on-stage actors need to be in sync with that, incredible. This is so well rehearsed, so well done. I can't say enough good things about the show. You have to go see Maybe Happy Ending. And then there was one, and I just want to be totally honest, this is like take 88 for this show. I mean, it's the show that I talk about too much to everyone. Everyone's sick of hearing me talk about it. I've gone back to it too many times. But I'm on take 88 because I just can't seem to do this show justice in the way I describe it. So I'm just going to speak from the heart, say everything I love about it, and we'll just see how it goes from here because I can't make this perfect. All right, so The show that I'm talking about, it's way down, it's under the ground, it's Hadestown, okay? I originally fell in love with the original Broadway cast album, Reeve Carney, Even Though Blazada, Andre DeShields. I actually got to meet Reeve Carney and Even Though Blazada on my walk home. I went to Passport Authority, bumped into them. These are two of the nicest people, very easy to support. I wanted to see the show in person. I got to see the Jordan Fisher and Maya Rafiko duo as Orpheus and Eurydice. They were phenomenal. I mean, I have no criticisms of them in this role. They were fantastic. This show is so engaging right off the bat. They turn to the audience, all right, the band's on stage, everyone's engaged. The first song has that New Orleans jazz feel. It's in your face, it's fun, you know you're on for a ride. And then you're just going on an emotional roller coaster the rest of the night with one of the best scores on Broadway. I can't say enough good things about this show. I have to move into a bunch of spoilers here. It's going to be spoilers the rest of the way. So just go ahead and skip to the end, please. I'm so sorry, but I have to. All right, let's talk about that opening number. It's an old song. It's a sad song. It's a tragedy. The way they sing that so upbeat and so happy is such a trap, because at the very end, they deliver the exact same song, but this time the air sucked out of the room. Hermes is depressed. He's singing nearly in tears about Orpheus. It's a sad song. It's a tragedy. That sort of like parallelism between the two songs, I can't say enough about. That's to me is what makes this an absolute masterpiece. On top of, we're stuck in a time loop. We're singing it again and again and again. I love how different Orpheuses have a different take on the ending. I do think that my favorite take on it is that, Orpheus is just so overwhelmed with self-doubt, the dog in his head, is just so overwhelmed with self-doubt that despite it being totally irrational to look back, he just can't help it. And that's what doubt and self-doubt does. It makes you irrational. And I think that's the most human part of the show. You can't say enough about the Hadestown gasp. It's so fun going in knowing and just waiting to hear the audience when they look back. I'm hearing Carlos Valdez has his own take on it, where when he looks back, he smiles because he's initially like, oh, she's here. And then he realizes what he's done and it just falls apart. I'm interested to see that take. I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait. I'm going to go see the original Broadway cast in London. That's how much I believe in this show. I've never traveled internationally before. This will be the first trip. Can't wait to see them in London. I can't say enough good things about the show. This is my number one. It's my favorite of all time. I could talk for an hour about it, but I'll stop here. And that's it. That's a wrap on my 2024 tiering video. If you liked it, please like, comment, subscribe. Give me all the feedback you can. I'm so new to this. I'm new to Broadway. I'm new to making videos. So hopefully this just keeps getting better and better. And thank you for taking a random walk down Broadway with me.